Welcome to the Billionaire Lifestyle Podcast with your host, Emmett Muckles. Please visit iTunes, Stitcher, or emmettmuckles.com to listen to all the episodes for free.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Billionaire Lifestyle Podcast. I am not going to mention my name because if you've listened to the show, you know exactly who I am. But today, I got a hottie with me. She is going to make you transform in your own way. This is Heather Moreno. How are you?
I'm outstanding, Evan. I'm so glad to be here with you.
You know, it took us some time to actually connect up because life happens, and I'm so thankful that, you were so understanding about the time.
Absolutely.
Now,
it happens to all of us.
Before I get too deep in, I always go back because there's always a journey. And the reason I go into the journey is because someone's going to say, oh yeah, I was there. I did that. And sometimes we can't see the forest for the trees. The journey is what brings us to that necessary area where we need to be in life. So where did you start off on your health journey, on your life journey, and your understanding?
Boy, that's a big question. How do you start with that? It was in my teens that I just became interested in health and wellness, and not from a diet exercise, like I was a fanatic kind of, super athlete, nothing like that. Just that concept that how we treat our bodies has a significant impact on our life. And I don't know where I got that, but I just did. And so I was in undergraduate school getting my accounting degree. And I took an upper division GE course in the chemistry of nutrition and drugs. And I thought, wow, I wish I'd done something like this. Of course, I went, finished out my accounting degree, got my CPA license, was working for a firm. And partway through, I started taking a program at UCLA. It was a program for basically through their extension, exercise physiology, biomechanics, that kind of thing. And eventually left the firm, started personal training, and thought, I had this great knowledge that I was going to impart to everybody, and everybody was going to be fit and healthy, and came to find out that it didn't quite work that way. And so then that really started this journey of understanding, what causes people's behavior. And it's really looking at that helps people get results. So that's a little bit of the journey of how I got to where I am right now.
Awesome. So one of the big things is you help people with their diet and their exercise, basically their weight loss. But it's more than just a physical thing when you are dealing with weight loss, because sometimes you have these addictions to break, you have habits to break, you have psychological baggage that, like Louis Vuitton, you've got this, you've got this set of luggage that you can't see as an advisor or a counselor, but you have to unpack that. And a lot of people go on diets. So why do these diets keep you on this up and down roller coaster?
Yeah. Of diets is they give you this, in essence, these rules, this list of good foods and bad foods. And invariably, your favorite foods are on the bad food list. So you get in this, what can be called, let's say you're going to start a diet Monday, because Monday tends to be the day that diets start. Yeah. And so if you decide that on a Friday, you're going to have what you would call Last Supper eating, right? The entire weekend, you're just going to eat everything, because Monday, you got to buckle down and be good.
Yeah.
And then that lasts for, it could last for a few days. It could last for a few weeks or a month or so. But then something happens, right? Life happens, something makes us upset, and we react in a way with food, whatever happens. And we just say, oh, forget it. I'm going to have, and then cookies, chips, pizza, whatever it is. And it's not that those things in and of themselves are bad, but we don't just have, a Thin Mint, we have a sleeve of them, right? We don't have a glass of wine, we have a bottle of wine. So it becomes where we then overdo it. And so we backlash against the deprivation that we've experienced the last week, 2 weeks, 2 months. And it doesn't stop there. We keep doing that for a while, because in the back of the mind is that knowledge that I've got to get good again. This can't survive. I can't keep having these foods I really like. I'm going to have to get good again. So let's get it all in, and then we'll start another diet. So it's this just roller coaster that keeps people stuck.
So do you often see with your clients and these people that you're working with that they just need someone in their corner to let them know that it's okay to venture on this journey?
Absolutely. So many people, we get with these rules. This is the way it needs to work, rather than learning to trust our own bodies and to figure out what's going on with us. What do I really need? What do I need to not be doing? And figuring out what really works for the individual rather than some sort of one size fits all approach.
And you have a couple of tricks that you can help people with, like namely 3 of them that help people to apply in their life right now. What are those?
Yeah. So, I have so many, but I narrow it down to some that I think can be the most common. So one of them I call tasty tweaks. So here's an example. I had a colleague about a year ago lamenting to me that he had been gaining weight. And so I had hinted to him that his regular, venti cinnamon dolce lattes might be having something to do with that. And so rather than tell him, hey, don't step foot in a Starbucks or, just get a tall drip, I said, hey, why don't you cut the pumps in half and leave off the whipped cream? So that one thing stopped him from gaining weight.
Yeah.
And so I really recommend to people, look at the ways you can just start doing a few little tasty tweaks yourself. It's a way to do just some small steps that over time can add up to some big results. It's not an overnight success, but it's something small you can start doing to still enjoy and make a difference. Another thing that I really recommend for people to do would be to what I call using recovery time well, right? So when we get home from, work, whether we're business owners, we are working somewhere else, we get home and we say, it's been a long day. I deserve, a glass of wine to veg out in front of the TV or, that Thin Mint or whatever. And there's nothing wrong with those things. But again, it turns into overkill. We end up binge watching Game of Thrones, drinking a bottle of wine. It's not what really takes care of us. So what I really recommend to folks is to say, hey, if you were to treat yourself really well, what would you do in this moment? What are the things that you've been wanting to do or promising yourself that you're going to get around to sometime? And it might look like calling a good friend who you haven't spoken with in months, who lives across the country, and just having a really nice conversation. It might be doing one of those things like meditating or yoga that, again, you're always telling yourself you're going to do, reading a book, whatever. And then the third thing I would say, and this is almost universal, I always ask people, how many of you eat when you're sad, mad, glad, afraid, tired, bored, stressed, procrastinating? Everybody raises their hand. So the number one thing you can ask yourself before you eat is, am I hungry? Am I hungry? And most people will be amazed at how often they go to reach for food when they're truly not biologically hungry.
That was one of my turning points. And it's funny with us human beings, we learn something and we'll forget it because of emotions.
Yes.
So I learned this years ago that I only ate when I was hungry, and I forgot it for some emotional reason and rediscovered it recently and dropped 17 pounds because I only ate when I'm not hungry. Well, dinner's ready. I'm not hungry. But an hour later, okay, I'm ready to eat now. And that made a big turning point in my life. Also sleep. Willpower, because I struggle with this. I struggle with this in many areas of my life. There's something that you have to do. There's a task that you have to accomplish. There's an act that you have to perform. And you say to yourself, I'm going to will myself to do it. And you may do it for a day. You may do it for a week. But then all of a sudden, the priority slips away. So what is it with willpower and the understanding of that with people?
Yeah, it's just a short-term energy source. As you said, it might last a day or a week or something like that. So it's a very short-term energy source. And you end up with these competing priorities. And if you're trying to will the one, but the habit of the other is so much stronger, it's going to win out. And, and you probably know this, we've got these habits that have been ingrained with sort of that limbic system, that animal brain, that very primitive brain that just, we've trained it like that. Again, come home, feel better, have a glass of wine. We just keep going down that path. And so willing yourself to not do that, you've got to actually have a stronger why. You've got to be really clear on your why. You've got to dig down and figure out what are my needs and how do I actually get those needs met in ways that are helping me reach my goals. So there's just a lot of inner work that has to be done. And when we think, I just don't have the willpower, stop expecting the willpower to show up. You've got to start looking at it from a different way.
Do you also educate people on serving size? Because I recently, I'd say about 10 years ago, I never realized this. I would buy a pack of potato chips, those small bags of potato chips. Mm-hmm. And you look on the back and it says, okay, there's 300 calories per serving. And then somewhere else it says there's 3 servings in this bag.
Yes. So really when we go back to that, am I hungry? If you're appropriately hungry, meaning, and by appropriately, I mean, you can be overly hungry, right? You go too long, you end up with low blood sugar, headachy, irritable, and that will often cause you to overeat. But when you're appropriately hungry, if you put your 2 fists together, that's like about the size of your stomach.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I filled that up yesterday.
Yeah. And nothing to spare, right? So that. And then you look at, like you said, okay, you could chew up potato chips and have them fit in that space, but that is 900 calories versus, something else that you could have that might be a better choice. That one, you like, you got to like it. You can't be depriving yourself, but 2, also helps you reach your health and weight loss goals.
Do you find that there's a difference between body types? I've come across these body types there are several things. Let me frame this correct. There's the ectomorph and those body types. But then I was thinking about this recently because I was doing this kettlebell challenge. And I started thinking about food historically, where my people didn't eat some of these things. That might be why I'm keeping this weight on. I wonder if it's part of my DNA in but regional foods, because you see some areas where people are historically very fit and are not obese. And you see other areas such as the islands where they're just naturally very big people. Does some of that come into play when you're dealing with your clients?
It does. And I think a lot of us have that sense of what our body type is. And when we can accept that and work with it, and then do the best that we can to be the healthiest and most fit that we can be, whatever our goals are, that's really ideal. It's when we're trying to change our body, or we're lamenting the fact that we've got larger hips or, smaller this, bigger that, whatever. Just to say, hey, that's how you're created. That's how you came into it all. And let's embrace that. And how do you be the best you? Because you're right about that. To look at someone else's body type and want that isn't helpful. And if anything, it probably has you not treating your body so well. I think we really have to like our bodies in order to treat our bodies well.
Yeah, that's so prevalent in this society, because I live outside of Chicago. Actually, I live out in the country. And it is a stark difference between the city of Chicago and Indiana. Where I'm in Indiana, I'm rather small, and I'm 6 foot tall, about 202 pounds. And I'm just, they're like, you need to eat. But, it's all about some of the times the company that you keep, because, I was thinking about the Depression, the Great Depression, because there was this term that came out of the Great Depression: finish everything on your plate, because there was such a lack, and that's carried over. Do you see people carrying that psychologically with them?
I will ask a question, especially certain generations, right? I mean, certainly my generation, those a little ahead of me and even a little behind me. I will ask when I speak to a group, how many of you ate everything on your plate and overate in order to save a bunch of children in China who were starving? That was the story. There are children in China starving, so eat everything. So, and everyone laughs and they raise their hands. So we did get in this place of, eating too much because of that sense of, well, there are others less fortunate. So there's a balance between understanding, okay, there are others less fortunate, but me overeating isn't helping them. Maybe it's looking at what do I have and how am I the best steward with my resources? And if I'm continually putting more food in front of my, in my plate than I need, how do I minimize that? And then what do I want to do about the other issues that I find important to me? But you're right, that's been ingrained. Also, think about when you were a kid and you fall down, you hurt yourself, and you're told, "Oh, sweetie, here, feel better, have a lollipop," right? And so food easily becomes comfort. There are these things that we learn. Yeah.
In the years that you've been in your practice, have you seen the growth of men coming to you for health reasons and for body image reasons? And the reason I'm asking, because there's this ideology that's floating around, which is called the Adonis effect, where you have all these guys, particularly with Instagram and Facebook, you see these guys who have this little bitty waist, this broad chest, which is kind of the opposite of the attraction for men to women, which women have the hips and the narrow waist, and then they taper up. Have you seen men coming into the forefront, or is it, just so they could fit in?
I think because that's not really the realm in which I work, the men that I attract tend to be older, and they're just like, hey, I want to be healthy. I haven't figured this out. And they don't seem to have the mindset issues that so many women are sort of been saddled with over the years. So I'm sure that there are those men out there. And when I see the commercials on TV that are starting to gear more towards men, I think, oh, guys, don't fall for it. Don't fall for it. We have, and it hasn't been good. But I haven't personally had that in my business. Yeah,
I'm really kind of observing the landscape now, because now there used to be this shift. And I said this, I'm an African-American man. And when I was in high school, I went to a suburban high school where I was super minority. But if you had any substantial meat between the knees and the waist, you were an outcast. Now it is a new thing where people are going through this body dysmorphia. Are you dealing with any of that as well, where women are trying to say, I want this Kim Kardashian body, or they're looking at someone and like you said earlier, and you're kind of like, look, I have to rearrange your thought process on this.
That's exactly it. It's, again, you've got to like your body to treat it well. And so most of the women that I work with, they've been there already, right? They've been in their 20s, 30s. Usually by their 40s, they tend to start coming out of that, realizing that, okay, it's more than just trying to lose weight over the weekend for, some event that's coming up, or trying to look like a Kardashian or whoever. Most of them have gotten out of it by that time. And if not, they don't tend to want to work with me. So if we have that conversation and they're gearing in that direction, and I'm kind of trying to open something new up to them, and they still keep pushing in that other direction, I know we're not a fit. They're not ready. And that's okay.
Okay.
And that's okay.
So what about exercise? Is the portfolio diet and exercise and lifestyle that you help them understand that it is not just one thing? Like, I'm not going to give you this blue pill and everything's going to be okay. You can't just take a red pill and it's okay. You have to take the whole cocktail to be well-rounded.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's everything. When you look at wellness is physical, mental, spiritual, emotional. There's a whole component to that. And so when it comes to weight loss, there's certainly the food aspect, there's the exercise, and just the activity aspect. How active are you? Exercise has to be, you can't just keep doing the same thing over and over. You've got to have some variety and intensity and cross training. You got to do things you like. I mean, consistency is the biggest key. Yeah. And so if you can find things you enjoy and that you'll be consistent with, then that's, I think, the biggest part of the battle is finding something you enjoy so you can be consistent. Then once you're consistent, let's make sure you're doing the right things. And then other pieces that go into it are really needing that downtime, sleep, meditation, flexibility, yoga, those kinds of things. So those are all so important.
You just named me in the last year. I wasn't sleeping, so I couldn't get rid of the weight. I'm from stiff people. I think we were trees in another life.
I never heard that. I'm from stiff people.
I am serious. Well, my daughter, my 26-year-old daughter, she was in dance, and I remember this. She was about 12, and she said, "Thank you." I was like, "For what?" She was like, "I am very inflexible." She was like, I have hips from you, I have knees from you, I have shoulder blades from you, and I'm too muscular. I was like, "You're a superstar. Stop it."
Exactly.
But now I'm going through it because my wife said this to me one day. I was coming out the shower and I was putting my pants on. I was fish hooking my pants to put them on. And she goes, "Ooh, what is that?" I was like, "What's what?" She was like, "What you're doing?" I'm like, "I'm putting my pants on." She was like, "You can't step into your pants." I was like, "No." So that started my yoga journey into getting flexible.
That's awesome.
So let's get to it. We're not at the last question yet, but I have to find out all this stuff. Where are you located? Where can people find you? Are you doing any conferences? Are you having any online items? How can people get in contact with you?
Sure. So the best way is through weightbreakthrough.com. And actually right now I'm just launching my 30-day Don't Diet Challenge. And so that's going to be starting in 2 weeks. And so if people want to find out about that, they can go to weightbreakthrough.com/challenge.
No, give me the date. You said in about 2 weeks. So that's it's September.
Starting on the 11th of September.
Okay. That's
Tuesday.
All right. See what she just did? She was like, "Emmett, you better put this episode up before the..."
Exactly. I'm giving you 24 hours to get this up.
Right. See, these are the women in my life. This is how this rolls. I'm used to it.
So yeah, that's how they can find out about the challenge, weightbreakthrough.com/challenge, or just weightbreakthrough.com. I have a freebie on there, a free strategy session if people want to kind of dig in and see if working one-on-one would be a good fit for them.
What about speaking, books, seminars?
Yeah, I'm speaking at the Municipal Managers Association of Southern California. I'm not sure anyone's going to be there, but
SoCal, yeah.
Yeah.
You didn't know it was going to be this fun, did you?
I did not. So yeah, certain particular speaking things where outside folks would go, not at the moment. So, okay. But if people are looking to book a speaker, that is also on my website if people want to get in touch with me. So I tend to do women's retreats, professional conferences, and things of that nature.
What about companies? Are companies finding, because it's advantageous for companies to have their employees as healthy as possible. And I've seen it change where you used to just have a vending machine, but now companies are having fresh fruit. They're having better, I would say, biologically organic items for people to consume for their health. Are people coming to you when they're trying to make that switch, or are companies coming to you when they're trying to make that switch?
I work more one-on-one. So I have done some with companies doing, lunch and learns or 3-month workshop types of things. And that usually is with a company that is already interested in doing something like that. So I have seen that, and I love that that's happening. It's still, the nice thing is that makes it available, because one of the obstacles for people is that when they're surrounded by vending machines and they don't have healthy choices, when they're in one of those moments where they're stressed, they don't feel like they have a lot of time, it's easy to go for that vending machine. Yeah. But if there's a healthier choice there that's made easier for them, but then no matter what the company provides, if they're not dealing with their own internal stuff and really have the drive and the motivation and have figured out that mindset to get there, all of that is just, extra stuff. It doesn't make it happen. It just makes it easier once the person decides and has what it takes to do it.
this question just came in my head because I was on this trying to cut this body fat. And I was on Tim Ferriss's slow carb diet. Worked like a charm. I was angry the whole time. I turned like 8 feet tall. I was green all the time. I was just smashing stuff. It was just horrible. And it's because I literally didn't have any carbs. I had no carbs and I was angry. Do you see people who are going through this and they're getting discouraged because, carbs are bad. Carbs are bad. And, a lot of time that carbs are what feeds our brain.
Yeah.
And our emotions go off. Are you seeing people like, I've tried everything and I'm just ready to just check out?
That's at the point where they come to me, generally speaking. Because yes, you can't, any diet that has you completely cut out one of the macronutrients, there's 3, carbs, protein, and fat, that has to be a red flag. Keto diet, ketogenic has been sort of a craze. I won't say a craze, but that's sort of been a favorite lately. And there is some research that shows medically that has helped people with type 2 diabetes and some heart issues. But there are no studies looking at the long-term effects of what that is. And then also, is someone truly keto versus they're just eating more carbs that are vegetables versus having almost no carbs.
Yeah.
So I think carbohydrates get a bad rap because people think of, let's go back to the Thin Mint, right? Or they think of bagels and pastas, but legumes and fruits and vegetables, those and whole grains, like let's say quinoa, brown rice, those are all carbohydrates. And like you said, brain needs carbohydrates. Fat burns in a carbohydrate flame, like our bodies need carbohydrate.
Yeah. Yeah, because I've seen these diets throughout the years. And one thing that I know is when you look at the population, and I'm old enough now to remember the 80s. I can go before that. But yes. What we considered obese and fat then is different than the level of obesity and fat. And we can really attribute that to the energy sources that are in foods nowadays. They're just so compacted with calories now. Mm-hmm. Are you retraining people on that aspect too, where, understanding what the fuel that they're putting in their body?
Yeah. I mean, you have to understand the caloric density of food. You have to understand you can have a piece of cheesecake and you can have, a salad sitting next to each other that could be the same size, or the salad could be much bigger. And you got to know that the cheesecake has far more calories in it. So there's having a certain understanding. And then you combine that with, okay, what's healthy? What do I enjoy? It's a whole approach that has to go together. You said something else that I'm trying to, flew out of my head. Never mind.
That happens. Happens to me all the time.
But yeah, so understanding those things are important. But when we're focused on calorie counting, that then kind of leads you to that. I mean, that's not a sustainable lifestyle of just counting calories.
So when you get that person, you're in an elevator and they ask you what you do, and they clearly need some help. And they're saying, I've tried everything. I am a lost cause. I am the way I am, and that's all that I am. And you say,
would you like to have a conversation about that?
Oh, that was calm too. I'd hate to see you in a nightclub. You're like, let's have a conversation about that. That was so smooth.
That is what it is. I mean, like I said, most of my work is one-on-one, and it is about those conversations. And if someone doesn't want a conversation, that's okay.
Yeah, but sometimes people just literally need a different take on it because, they usually try to follow the masses. And I commend you for the work that you're doing. So thank you for being on the podcast.
Well, certainly. Thank you for having me. You are a delight.
Let's go over it again. Facebook.
Yes, weight breakthrough.
We got one last exercise.
All right.
You got to close your eyes.
Oh, okay.
Don't worry. I'm not in the room, so you don't have nothing to worry. That was creepy. So creepy. All right. we're going to go back to when, like 2 weeks ago, when you were like 18. All right.
I'll try to remember that. Yes.
All right. I want you to picture an 18-year-old. Now we're going to come forward. You're sitting on the couch in your house and you're just chilling. You know, you got that low-carb Moscato wine in your hand. Probably about to watch like Game of Thrones or something. You're just chill. You're like, I have a moment to myself just to do nothing. The dog's not around, the kids, what? Nobody can bother you. Then all of a sudden you hear a knock at the door. And you're like, ugh. And you get up and you go to the door and you open the door. And there's your 18-year-old self staring at you. And the first thing she says, man, you look good. Anyway.
I say, thank you.
And then she says, how do I get to where you are a little more comfortably?
Relax. Don't take everything so personally and enjoy the journey a little bit more.
So, ladies and gentlemen, you know how I end the show. Even if you don't know, you're going to know shortly. So, remember this. We are all human beings. And that's HUE space MAN and then the word beings. And let me explain it to you in case you don't get it. Hue is you're of a color because we are children of the sun. And we are all sharing that. We are in the image of our creator, which they say is man. So they gave us that. Now, here comes the important part. The part that you guys really need to understand. The being part. We are spiritual beings having a physical experience. This is what the billionaire lifestyle is about. I'm not preaching you to stop chasing money, but figure out how much you need to have love, comfort, safety, food, those basic things that make you happy. And then once you figure that out, find out your passion, find out what makes your heart sing, and go experience or live in that being. And remember this, we were just talking about bodies. When you get out the shower, instead of just rapidly drying off, just drop your towel a little bit, wipe the fog off the mirror, and sit there and bask in the glory of your human being. Because as above, so below. Now that works from the mind down to the body, and it works from the cosmos down to us because we're all fractal. And remember, love yourself. And when you find someone that has those two galaxies in the middle of their head next to that passageway that brings love, life, and air into your body, treat them with respect and love as you want to be treated. Till next time, love you all. Peace.